Good morning. It's
Good morning,
Friday.
good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're listening from. In Italy, it is 7 or 6. And wow, it's been a busy week of deaths and losses. And that's not even in my personal life, which is, I want to welcome Jill back to
And
here.
Deb.
Yeah, we took the week off. Um, Lots of stuff happening, and how good would we be if we didn't walk our own talk with
Right.
everybody here and be transparent and say Jill was traveling, had a heavy week, I had a heavy week, and yeah, it was one of those weeks.
And as we've had all these losses this week, all the public losses.
Public losses of
Right.
actors from times when we needed their character, whether it's because you were in love with them. James Vanderbeek, what was the name of the show my stepdaughter used to watch all the time?
Dawson's Creek.
Dawson's Creek. Yeah, like who didn't need a heartthrob like him?
And who didn't learn about grief and loss from Grey's Anatomy?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And who didn't have a role model for civil rights in Jesse Jackson?
And that's just a few of them.
Right.
And there's different types of losses and anticipated losses and dream losses that you saw in the raw emotion from our Olympic figure skaters or downhill skiers or luge or curling or this or that. It's like the last 2 weeks have been ups and downs.
There have been so many wild emotions involved. And unfortunately, with the Olympics, there's been so much ugliness towards some of the athletes, largely by people who've never been athletes themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. But I'm watching these athletes support one another and use that grace and then bring in Snoop's humor. Right?
Oh my gosh.
How did we do Olympics before Snoop?
Snoop's had his credit card declined. Oh my God.
Snoop was hanging on the outside of the ice machine. Waving and shaking hands.
Yeah. So let's get right into it, Jill.
Wait, I have one more thing to say. Yeah. If I go to Italy and go to our favorite watchers place in Italy, do I get that Italian hot chocolate? I keep seeing, because Christy Yamaguchi has completely ruined me for hot chocolate with her Olympic pictures.
Yes. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. When we have public losses, what does it do? And are they important? Yay, Ian, thank you. And yes, they are. That's the long and the short of it.
Yes. And why? Because something they represent shakes you to the core. And in the past, and I thought I was like, he didn't know me, I didn't know him. But when Robin Williams died, I was gone. I took it very personally. How about when John F. Kennedy was assassinated back in 1963? Our parents, our relatives. I mean, I was 8. How old were you, Jill? You might not have been born. Were you born?
When Kennedy was killed?
Yeah.
No, I was not born.
Yeah. So things like that, when there's public losses, when there are public displays of the when they're lying in state, or when Pope Francis died, when these are, and if you want to comment, put in the comments, what public loss affected you the most?
Right.
Please feel free to.
Who didn't feel it when we lost our last golden girl during the pandemic?
Right.
How could that possibly happen? But we had, for those who are older, we had the Challenger. And for those who are younger, we've had mass losses in schools around the world. It's public losses bring us together. But sometimes we get embarrassed saying, this really hit me. And yet in a closed therapist group,
Right.
there has been discussion about how to support clients who are feeling the loss of these actors that they have had zero contact with, most of them, because they were part of either their growing up or their young adulthood, or they taught them lessons and how they died on screen, or all those things.
And
or they died of ALS and cancer young.
2 other very public losses was Renee Good,
Yes.
and Alex Pretty.
Right.
And, yeah. And Ian, I just want to comment, Betty White was larger than life, because it wasn't just her actor or actress's part. It was her what she gave to others, her relatability across the spectrum to both genders and ages, because she had that sense of humor. She had a sophomoric sense of humor, right?
Right. And she was a businesswoman and an animal rights person.
Activist, yes.
Activist. And she wore her widowhood as part of who she was, but not as a victim of it.
That's
which
right.
is such a role model. I use her frequently when I am talking about responses to being widowed, which is, there's a spectrum. Jill's on one side and Betty's on the other, right? And everyone else lies somewhere in between.
Right.
Steve says Jane Goodall was a loss for him.
Oh, exactly. It's what that person represented to you. And I not a big McDreamy or Mr. Dreamy or whatever.
He was McDreamy.
Yes. And Grey's Anatomy, that was one show I watched maybe a couple seasons.
Whereas we have it memorized.
Right. Exactly. And the fact that he die of ALS?
He did die of ALS, which was what I was going to bring up. Sometimes it's the way public people die. Jesse Jackson was at home with dementia and had family who took time off work to take care of him. And so they've experienced that caregiver spectrum and that exhaustion and fatigue. And he died of ALS, which is exhausting, fatiguing, and has touched some of the people who watch our show. Yes, Harrell's.
Yes.
He battled that for so many years, and so many veterans have as well, without being acknowledged that it's a veteran's disease as well. And then Vanderbeek died of colon cancer, which is something that's coming up in numbers for younger people.
Right.
And we need to be watching. That's how my extra daughter lost her mom. There's people identify with these public losses for so many reasons, and they're all real and valid and cause pain and need to be acknowledged.
And Jesse Jackson, I grew up with him. His son actually, I believe, went to the University of Illinois, so he would make appearances down here many years ago too. And say what you want about civil rights activists such as Martin Luther King, Jesse Jackson, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, all these people, and I have barely touched anything. Their sharpness, their way of bringing people together,
Right.
to focus on hope. That's what, just focus on hope. They knew they weren't going to make things better right then and there, but they planted seeds. That was their main job, and organize to bring people together. Their tenacity to what they knew they had to do in their life. Wow. I mean,
And, you know, I have to say, as you're bringing up Ruth Bader Ginsburg and identifying with the hope and the activism and the first, you know, and the woman who took the Supreme Court after being denied places in law school. And I'm remembering she took her husband to work with her at the Supreme Court because his Alzheimer's was so significant. He couldn't stay home, and she had a caregiver at the court. Then she had to leave the court to take him home to Arizona. And then she died of the same disease. And so my link to that is the dementia process.
right.
There's so many ways and reasons that we have grief over these folks. Stephen's pointing out that he and Harrell fought for veterans who were denied benefits because of ALS.
Yes.
If you don't know, ALS and glioblastoma are now two diseases that are linked by the military finally to exposure, even secondary exposure to Agent Orange, along with spina bifida. And
Yes.
I've known people
Or
who
their
have
kids.
all those things
Right.
related to it. Yeah.
Right. Right. In
Mhm.
fact, I know. I finished up Call the Midwife. And so spina bifida was brought up with what the kids were in it. Yes. Linked to Agent Orange in the military.
My mom was one of the youngest survivors of spina bifida, not related to Agent Orange.
Uh-huh.
And she had back surgery as a tiny child as a result.
Yes.
So yeah, there's so many ways that public losses impact us.
Right.
And when we don't talk about it, first of all, we don't know how it connects to other people.
Right.
Right? You wouldn't have known that Deb was hit hard by the loss of Robin Williams. And that was because of his humor, and I'm also pretty sure because of the movie about the red noses.
Well, the Patch Adams part.
Patch Adams piece, yeah.
And he also the Fisher King,
Yep.
where, working with the homeless, also how he gave to so many, also because of the Vietnam War and being part of that era. Also, I mean, for so many reasons, I actually modeled part of my speaking techniques and storytelling after I saw him on Mork and Mindy,
Yes.
and as a comedian. So, he never knew what a mentor he was to me.
And to so many. And my connection to him is, yes, the humor and the Vietnam era, because that's when my wife served, my late wife and my late brother-in-law, but also, and his versatility, you're right, Ian, but also because he died of Lewy body, which is how I lost my second wife. And despite the fact that he had all the insurance from the Screen Actors Guild, which is, I got to tell you, if you want gold plate insurance, you want a SAG card. That is the card to have. Even that couldn't get him diagnosed properly.
Right. He actually died by suicide
as a result of what was happening, the symptoms of Lewy body, which he didn't understand.
Right.
Because he didn't know it was Lewy.
Right.
So there's all of that. And so there's these people that we've lost young. We shouldn't be losing people in their 50s. Speaking as someone in her 60s.
Almost 70.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And we shouldn't be losing people to preventable diseases that aren't being caught.
Right.
And we shouldn't have parents of 6 children dying because when they're little. And we should not have to see our civil rights leaders losing the ability to recognize who they are because of dementia. And all of that is that unfair piece of loss and death and grief.
Yeah. And just sort of moving on this week, a very dear friend of mine, she and this woman's best friend and living mate sat vigil while they watched their friend die on because of a heart, had some sort of heart, not a heart attack, but a cardiac event. And so she was on a ventilator, and watching people on ventilators is very traumatizing because of the sound,
right?
Because of the sight, because of many reasons. And nobody, look at people in medical shows, they don't really show how bloated people get and the uglies, and they don't show how many tests need to be done before you can donate organs, before you can do this. And so my friend was witness to all of that, and she had breakfast here today as she went through, things that she was so frozen after her friend died, she couldn't get out. And it's a very different kind of death, being kept alive, and it's not in any way, shape, or form. It might be more accurately shown on the pit. I have not watched that yet.
Yes, they do. They don't show that part because it's ER, but they do talk about how hard it is in the decision-making process. And they do have on one of the episodes, they have had someone dying a natural death and showing the fact that the young medicals don't know that that's what they're seeing.
Yeah.
They're trying to treat symptoms, and one of the second or third years is like, no, we don't do any of that. We wait, and 5 minutes later, they're gone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But in supporting each other in those kinds of things, my friend, every day I would just say, just checking in. I do it twice a day. And then I said, and she says, you know what I want? I have to sit for an hour at my allergist. Would you sit with me? And number 2, I'm not going to say the exact quote, so I will modify it as she wrote me. At the hospital, I hate this freaking toilet paper. I can't stand it anymore because she was there so long. So I went to the store and bought her the cushiest toilet paper they have, and white chocolate. And then I went to her allergy department where they all know me now. So I gave her breathing shot, right? And I guess I will in the future. She'll pick it up and I'll give it to her. So I say to, how can you best support people that feel this loss when it's not even someone in their family and they're grieving? And like many of us grieve for Renee Good and for Alex Pretty.
And for all the others whose names aren't even known.
Right.
And what you can do is you can bring it up. If there is a magazine with one of those, with somebody on the front cover, as
Yeah.
there will be with Jesse Jackson, as there
Yes.
will be with the others today. You can bring it up to the person who's checking you out, and guaranteed, at least 80% of the time, they will talk about a loss they have had or how they
Yes.
identify with that loss. And they'll say, and nobody's talking about it.
Right.
Because we don't talk about it. Right? Ian said, I heard this yesterday, if your spouse dies, you're a widow or widower. If you are a child and your parents die, you're an orphan. If your child dies before you, that must be the most traumatic experience of all. And I think for some people it is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're right, we don't have titles. We don't have titles for siblings who are siblingless now.
Right.
Right? And we don't have titles for kids who are dadless or momless.
Right.
Or have had multiple parents die.
Right.
I have a child who's lost so many parents because of experiences in early childhood and losses that occurred in our family.
Right.
Nobody should experience that. Right?
And one of the things I do to initiate a conversation about things that nobody talks about, I'll say, wow, this was a hard one for me. And then that gives them the opportunity, the other people, to say, right, me too. Or, usually in a grocery store, they won't say, what do you mean? Because that's too long of a conversation. So they'll say, I get it. Me too. Blah, blah, blah. And, and then I end that quick conversation with, my heart goes out to you too.
Right.
To just to be attentive, to listen, to acknowledge, to
hold the space.
Hold the space.
And the emotions, and to be, if they need you to be the vessel for a short moment so they can talk about what's happening and give themselves some space. And give them permission to talk. If it's McDreamy, they're thinking about what's the funniest thing you saw him do, right? What did his character represent in all of its fullness, right? All of those things, because we can have some humor too,
right?
We can have losses on the Olympic ice or on the ski slope, and we can still see that goat climbing the ski jump. Oh my gosh, if you've not seen it, Google it.
I did not see the goat. There was a dog.
There's the dog who now has pictures up with a gold medal.
Yes. Yes.
Because we need that.
We do. We need those moments of
light.
And it's almost like a reality check, like silly and playful and ridiculous happen in life. I'll tell you, this wasn't silly or ridiculous, but here I am in my yard the other day looking at what I call, sometimes my yard is a Disney kids movie, and there's like squirrels and deer and birds and funny stuff, and maybe you'll see a cat come in and everybody scatters. Well, I saw something I'd never seen in my 30 years here. I know we have Fox. I've seen them. I've seen the kits. I've seen all the Disney part of it. But here's the Disney part I've never seen, and this wasn't Disney. That fox chased after he must have been an adolescent squirrel. He wasn't full grown. Yep, got him. And I saw him kill him and then haul him off. I couldn't even watch for part of it, right?
Yeah, no, that's not that. We don't do the circle of life, that side of it, in the backyard. I can do it with people.
Yeah,
I can do it with pets if it's peaceful. I have a stick in my backyard in case a hawk shows up.
Yeah.
And if there is a hawk in my backyard, I am out there holding my cane with the stick in my hand, acting like a fool.
Yeah,
that hawk is going to leave.
This went so fast. I
Yep.
was just,
Yeah.
and then I have, like you, as a nurse, seen people in all states before they die.
Right.
I turned away. I couldn't look at one part.
Yep.
And then trotted off to bring the food back to his den.
And you'll have the kits in your yard at some point, and you will enjoy them. And unfortunately, that is part of it. But right. I don't have to volunteer for it.
Yeah.
And that's the other piece. We can reduce the trauma we're exposed to.
Yes.
Right. If you have had medical losses and watching a medical show is traumatic,
shut it off. I have.
Use that channel.
Right? This is, and as a nurse, like I said, all types of wounds, blah, blah, blah. And, there's some wounds I haven't seen. I admit that. However, when there used to be a Subway commercial and they had the loaf of bread and they sliced into it, I could not watch that commercial because it looked like a forearm.
Yeah, no, you can't.
And I'm thinking about my good friend that's at vigil at the bedside of her friend, and what she did was at most she would be gone 6 hours to get a few hours sleep in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And so was the other person, and they took turns. And it's really hard when family starts asking questions like, well, what about this? What about life insurance? What about this? And the person isn't dead, or someone else has, it's one thing to question, but sometimes people question with judgment.
They question without understanding, and they question to make a point. My favorite is when they start asking for ashes when the person is still whole and alive.
Right.
That's my personal favorite moment.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's...
You need to take a break sometimes.
James Vanderbeek's ashes.
Right.
But it wouldn't be unheard of, like, well, his family's set. And that all comes from your own grief or trauma when you say stuff like that.
Right. And so mind it and be careful, because you don't know who around you.
Yes.
Also having losses, you don't know who around you.
Right.
If you met Steve on the street, you wouldn't know Harrell had died of ALS.
Right.
You wouldn't know that he'd been a heroic caregiver for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You would not know that. And so we need to be mindful.
Mm-hmm.
And if we need to set limits for whatever reason, we can.
I'm sure, it's a lot of times, and I'll talk about myself, but I'm thinking about Ian. I'm thinking about other people that bring humor and joy into the world. Really. Right. I'm not saying everybody doesn't bring humor and joy. I'm saying some things are more obvious than others. So I'm thinking how people make assumptions then, especially with me. Oh, your parents must have been so funny. Your parents, you must have had a great childhood. That's why you're so joyful. One time I actually had to use several explicatives in a row to say and convene, to say to someone, that's not necessarily true. Therapy helped a lot. Right? Right?
That's why I want to wear the T-shirt that says "My therapist knows all your names."
Oh, yes.
And that's why if I'm on a plane, nobody knows I'm a therapist or that I do grief.
Yeah. And
That's
you
not
know,
even
I'm
a
the
thing I
opposite.
share. Right.
I'm the opposite, right? Except I did learn when I was younger and single, if you went to a bar and was chatting with someone, never, like, I just have to tell you, I
Never.
told this guy I was a nurse. And he said, "Oh, do you want to dance?" And then while we're dancing, and it was a slow dance, he proceeded to tell me all about his colostomy bag. And while we're dancing, and
Yeah.
okay, I didn't want to hear that music. Anyway, I'm so glad we met. Bye. And before he could say anything. So, it's lesson learned, but I do tell them because then I'm not thinking about my own stuff, and it's just a quick little mini session.
No. I had a guy next to me on my first flight home this last week.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I'm so glad I did not disclose because, oof. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was some humor that involved me leaning forward to the guy in front of me and saying, "Help me, I can't do this much longer." And
Oh yeah.
but with a laughter in my, and then as I got up to get to my next flight, the other folks who knew I'd been sitting next to said
Yes.
guy closed ranks around me so that
Oh.
I could make a fast exit.
Oh yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
You gotta love
Yeah.
those moments.
You gotta love
Alcohol induced moments.
Oh. Oh. Yeah.
Gotta love
I
them.
probably wouldn't have said anything.
Yep.
And
All right. Yeah. And who do you tell your secrets to? That you tell your hairdresser. That's exactly right.
that's right. That's
You
right.
don't tell your dentist, and that's why they're safe.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, then has this happened to you? Let's just say my doctors and nurses and dentists and stuff, they love talking to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
They also know I'm going to reframe with humor so that it's like a challenge. What's Deb going to say? So it's like, what's going to come out of Deb's mouth? So,
Right.
Yeah. So if you see something, and then I've had people that I've said stuff to, like on the cover of something, and you have to watch out if it's a political character or this or that. But sometimes I've said, that was hard for me, like Robin Williams.
Right.
And then someone says, I never got his sense of humor. And I'm like,
that's fine.
That's what I do.
There are others. We don't need to, again, my hamster didn't die too. Right?
That's right.
I can fully appreciate that I'm having a loss and you're not, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with those you are around, acknowledge the losses and find the humor and find the goat climbing the ski jump.
Yeah. Find the dogs that run on
They're using an elevator to get the athletes to the top of the ski jump, and that goat just went right up it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to look that up.
You're going to have to. All right, guys, we have to close this off. We will be back next week. We will be in good humor next week. We hope you have a great week and that you take care of yourselves and those around you, and your gold medal dogs. Deb, I'm glad we're back.
Me too.
It's good.
All right,
everybody.
Bye,
See you next week. Bye.